You can see I have tons of notes that I've been writing down. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be your first Friday fishing report for May. So I was actually planning on doing some night fishing tonight and hitting up parts of the lower Kern and maybe Lake Isabella a little bit. But my buddy Sean, who you've seen quite a bit on this channel, just had his first baby. So I had to go meet his new son at the hospital. It's very exciting. So I plan on getting some of that fishing done probably next week and getting those videos out there. So make sure you check those out. All right, now, before we get started with the Lower Kern River and Isabella and the Upper Kern River, I just want to say that if you're in Bakersfield or maybe coming up from somewhere here in the valley and you just want your best bet, Lake Ming is where it's at. That spring bite is finally starting to take off. Those bass are hitting almost everything you can throw at them. About the only thing that I haven't heard anything back on are things like frogs. There's not really like mats of reeds or anything that you can go punching through like at Hart Park. That sometimes you get some of those really big bass just out there, punching some of the reeds, and we just haven't really seen that yet. But there is some topwater action with like the whopper ploppers. They've been doing really well. Also crankbait, swim baits, drop shot with the wacky rig Senko. Those have been good. I am a big fan of like a robo worm wacky, that's hard to say, robo worm wacky rig. I like to stick around the like the six inch length. Sometimes maybe get a little bit bigger. I don't know. Maybe the silhouette or something's a little bit different. Lake Ming is extremely shallow all the way across, and you can really just get out there and cover a lot of ground and pick up some of those either larger bass or larger numbers of small bass. So just make sure that you get out there and check that out. Now, we're just going to move right into the Lower Kern River. I'm going to try to keep this as quick and precise as possible. If you would like more details, like I said, check me out on Instagram, and I'm more than happy to share those fine details with you. So the Lower Kern River was actually getting really good, and it's getting in my favorite time of the season for the Lower Kern. The Upper Kern gets a little crazy, so I like to focus on the Lower Kern. It's closer to home for me anyway. But getting out there, it was getting really good. But those flows are starting to move up just a little bit. I think they're going to come back down here in the next month, so that's something to pay attention to. But the smallies, they're out there right now. Smallmouth bass, catching those on pretty much anything. I'm out there trying to catch carp, catching smallmouth bass. So, right, just whatever you want to throw. If you do want my recommendations on what to throw, again, swim baits. You're going to hear whopper plopper quite a bit. I love the whopper ploppers. I don't know why. It's just that type of action when you toss that out there, and then watching a bass that might even be the same size as the whopper plopper itself, just hitting it just out of aggression. And it just makes it fun. So getting out there with those poppers, just topwater poppers, have been really well, working really well. When we get into like catfish and things, I've been noticing that I've been catching more pike minnows than catfish. So that's just kind of more annoying than anything else. There are catfish, dip baits, throw some sardines, anchovies, mackerel, anything that pretty much has a big heavy smell to it is gonna pick some of those up. But like I said, the pike minnows have been picking those up as well, and it gets pretty annoying. The water, like I said, I really like it to be right around 1,000 CFS, but we're sitting right around 1,400. So that's just something to keep in mind. I don't recommend wading right now. If you want to get into your knees or something, that's fine. I'm not even putting waders on when I go out there just because I don't know, that river scares me. So I've floated down it a few times in waders, and it's not a fun experience. So I just, if anything, wear my wading boots with some socks and get into it up to my knees just so I can move around a little bit better when I'm rock hopping. But yeah, just get out there and hit it this next month. This next month's going to be great. All right, moving up now into Lake Isabella. Lake Isabella, I have a lot of information on just because this is where most people have been focusing their time since we had that derby. It's been about a month now since we had that derby, month and a week. It is actually May 1st right now. I'm doing this a little bit early to release this for Friday. But getting out there, Lake Isabella is about half full. Like I said, many people, they're going out there and they're catching their limits of crappie. These are also the people that know where the crappie are and they constantly fish for crappie. I've been out there personally fishing for like carp. I know I keep saying carp, but it's carp season right now, and I love carp season. But getting out there watching these guys catch these crappie, they're out there, they know where they're at. Some of the specific places that I've seen them is going in there and catching those around like French Gulch. French Gulch is always a good area. Kissack Cove, Paradise Cove. If you can find the old canal, there's an old canal that runs right there along 155, and where that goes, back there behind like the old cemetery and all that different stuff, you can get down in there, and there's just some deep channels, deep runs, and there's a lot of good fish in there, especially from the shore. We don't all have boats, we don't all have float tubes that we're going to be in, so sometimes shore fishing is all we have, and you can do really well right now. When we're looking at those live shiners, any type of shiner imitation, if you just want to get out there and throw some soft baits, some swim baits, white mini jigs. White mini jigs have always been one of my go-tos for crappie fishing. I'm also a big fan of the color pink, so white and pink together do really well. Big fluffy feather jigs, the crappie, they love it. But you do have to find the structure, you do have to find the schools. Crappie are a schooling fish, but when you find them, there's your limit. You're likely to catch 10 or 15 right there in that spot, and just move a little bit, find another school, and there you go. So get out there, have fun. Bass fishing. The bass fishing is really turning on, and I say that not like it hasn't been good last month, but we're finally stabilizing the water conditions. The water is slowly rising, but the temperature is finally steady. And those bass, they're starting to settle in there right around the 10-foot mark, maybe coming up a little bit shallower, and that makes them a whole lot easier to get to. So you can do that. I'm, again, big fan, drop shot, wacky rig. You get out there. Senko worms have been doing really well. But that robo worm, if you want to get out there, my specific color that I really like is the bold bluegill, and that does a really good job. You can find all this stuff if you're here in Bakersfield. Cope's Tackle, I'm not affiliated with them, but every single time I go in there, they treat you, like family, and they give you all the information that they have too. So make sure that you check them out. I always like to support the local people when I can, and they're about as local as it gets, so go in there and check them out. All right, now let's see. Actually turning the page here. So as far as hard baits, shad wraps, I'm a big fan of shad wrap, mainly because you can just go around the entire shore of Lake Isabella and catch 100 bass in a day if you want, just going along the shoreline. They're not going to be big bass, 8-10 inches maybe, but it's still a lot of fun, and it's fun for the kids to get out there and do it. And shad wraps are cheap and they're durable, and so I'm a big fan of those. Diving jerk baits, crankbaits. Again, not so much topwater action. You can try throwing those poppers. I'm not saying that that's not going to happen this next month. It probably is, but the bass are still just a little bit too deep. As we get into those 85 regular 90-degree days, the bass will move up just a little bit higher, and then they'll start hitting those topwater baits, especially early in the mornings or late in the evenings when the those shadows are casting on the water and they're really attacking those silhouettes. So that's going to be the time to do this. Trout are still out there. Do I recommend going for them? No, but if that's what you want to do, get out there and fish for some trout. There are still people catching trout, but it's not like they're just catching trout. They're going out there and fishing, and they're catching a trout, catching a carp, catching some crappie. Right? It's just they're there, they're hungry, and they're starting to hit on a bunch of different things. I think the trout that are there are going to go way deep here pretty soon once our water starts warming up. Remember, trout, anything over about 68 degrees, they don't tend to do very well. And so once that water temperature starts to get up there in those 60s, those trout, they're going to be really hard to get. Also, most people, when they catch trout in the lake, they don't like throw them back they're taking them, they're going to eat them, which that's fine. You do what you do. Also, most of the trout that are stocked are sterile, so they're not going to reproduce and like make more trout. So, yeah, again, do what you do. Eat your trout. But would I go out there and focus on trout? Probably not. There's better fish to catch right now. Trolling, if you have the ability to troll, that's still probably the best way. Needlefish, lead core line, or just trolling regular line way out there. And you can probably pick up, a good number of trout if you have all day to do it. All right, now getting into catfish. The catfish bite has really been coming on as well. The dam area. The dam has just been putting out all kinds of fish. Bass, crappie, bluegill. There's bluegill everywhere around that lake. But the catfish, and maybe that's why. Maybe they have a lot to feed on. But the catfish have been coming out of there quite a bit. Also, South Lake has been, producing some catfish. And Camp 9 is finally bringing in some fish as well. That area there for a little while, I think it just got blown out or something, just changed the bottom of the lake, and the catfish just weren't there like they used to be, but they're starting to come back in there, and we got a lot of that structure and different things that have now settled that they can hide behind. Remember, catfish, they're typically ambush predators. We all like to think, oh, they're bottom feeders, they're trash feeders, they're all this different stuff. No, they're usually ambush predators. And so they're patrolling, or they're waiting for something to come by, and they're hitting something from a hiding spot. So keep that in mind when you're targeting those catfish. When you're looking at catfish, I think that dip baits and cut baits, something with that strong smell, with that strong odor, is going to be best. Especially when you're in those areas, there is an underwater current that's going to drag that around and bring fish in when you're fishing. And the more people, the more rods that are in those areas are going to bring more fish in. So yeah, keep that in mind. Carp, right? I'm a sucker for carp. Right now the carp spawn is starting to happen, and there's some really good carp fishing going on. I mainly fly fish. I like to fly fish, but I'm not a sole fly fisherman. I'm not a purist by any means. And so going out there, but catching a carp on a fly rod, it's a pretty amazing experience. But the carp spawn is beginning. I think, whether you're fly fishing, whether you're out there bow fishing, now's the time to start hitting the shallows. So South Lake, you get the flats right there where the North Fork comes in, or where the South Fork comes in. Those are just good areas to target those carp. You can usually see them, but just remember, they're very spooky, and everybody thinks that, oh, they're just carp, they're dumb fish. But no, carp are some of the hardest fish I have ever tried to catch. So they see you from a mile away, they get spooked over the simplest little thing. That's why I like to fish for them during the spawn when they're dumb, and trying to do the thing they do when they're spawning. So yeah, so that about does it for Lake Isabella, which leads us to the Upper Kern River. Now, we're finally getting into those 50-degree water marks. 50-degree water whenever you're fishing for trout is really good. Trout get really active. I think the peak temperature for trout are right around like 55, 57 degrees. The trout get really active at that point. But what we're facing right now is we're facing the snow melt and the runoff. Now, 2,500 CFS has been, what we've seen at the end of this last month. It did come down last week. It did come down, and it came down to about 1,800 CFS. Now, anything below 2,000, I will go out there and I will make an effort to fish quite a bit. Dedicate a day, go out there and fish and see what's out there. Once it starts to get over like 2,000 CFS, there's still fish out there. It's just they're in different places that I don't normally fish for them at, and it only happens like at this time of the year. And so it's really hard for me to know exactly where they're going to be. And the fish are moving around, and so they get up in those tree roots, they get up in those campgrounds that get flooded during that time, and they spread out. They get in the slow water that's off to the sides. You can't always get to it. Sometimes you have to fish across the river, and I'm mostly fly fishing. So in that type of water speed and that type of water movement, it's really hard to to mend your line. With that being said, there are trout out there, and trout are being caught. The higher up you go, the lower the flows. So also the lower the temperature, so that, you know, there's kind of a cutoff point there and things to keep in mind. I do recommend, if you're going out there and you're bait fishing, salmon eggs with some split shot. So again, size 10 hook, bait holder type hook. I load mine up completely with salmon eggs, just top to bottom with salmon eggs, and then probably 16, 18 inches up, I throw a couple of split shot in there, and then I just toss it out in the current, let it drift. Just do it over and over and over, and just keep moving. You're gonna hook into some trout. So just keep that in mind. Mini jigs are good, rooster tails are good. The current plays a problem, but those mini jigs are really good for those flooded out areas where the water's getting really slow and you're wanting to hit some of those undercuts and different things like that. The mini jigs do really well in those areas. Now, getting back into fly fishing, I do recommend tight lining right now, Euro nymphing. Again, I'm a big fan of like Frenchies, Perdigons, egg patterns, squirmy wormies, mop flies, basically any of those trash flies that people don't like to talk about. They're doing really well. We're getting here pretty soon. We're going to be getting into like the whole dry dropper setup. Once those flows drop back down, terrestrials are going to be doing great again. And so you can do like a dry dropper, or you can use like a searching fly, anything that is like a parachute Adams or something that has a lot of buoyancy. You can you know, do a dry dropper with that. I also recommend to like right now doing some sort of like a merger on a point fly or a larva, and just kind of mixing those up. If you can swing two flies, you know, go out there and do it. Streamers are working well. You get out there in the current and just let it drift, and you know, just bring it back on the swing, and you're probably going to hook into some nice fish. When I say nice fish, I just saw a guy, he caught like a 22-inch native. So yeah, they're out there, and they're willing to hit what you're throwing if you're in the right place at the right time. All right, that just about does it for this video, but before I end it, I do want to remind you to check your regulations when you're fishing. So a lot of the creeks and tributaries are now open, which is where I'm going to be focusing probably in the next month when I'm not fishing for carp. And so just make sure you check your regulations. Anything above Johnsondale Bridge is barbless. I usually practice catch and release up there, but again, you're buying your fishing license, and right, you do you. But remember, barbless, what you want to make sure is that when you crimp it, is that you can pass it through like the sleeve of your shirt and pull it back out, and it does not catch any thread. So just keep that in mind when you're up there fishing. I just saw a YouTube video that has like 140,000 views, all because the guy didn't understand the regulations and got caught by a game warden, and you know, try to play it off like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand, everything's too complicated to read. So right, get out there, read this stuff, and you know, have a good time. So this next month, I might have some like mini fishing reports as things change, because just kind of updates on flows and things. So make sure that you are checking me out on Instagram at Road and Reel. And yeah, if this was helpful, make sure you hit that like button. There's always the super thanks down below if you want to support this channel monetarily. Or if you want to become a channel member, that is also an option as well. So you get early fishing reports, early video releases, and some cool swag maybe when I feel like sending that stuff out. So check that out. If you're new to the channel and you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe. And yeah, I'm going to get out there next week and get some more videos out there, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. So thanks for watching.